Hello everyone, I guess hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and today we are here with a pre-modern slash vintage pop report video where I go through the total pop growth in PSA graded cards for some of the most iconic rookies from vintage and pre-modern. This was a series that I did once every 3 months a couple years ago, and I'm going to pick it back up, this time doing it with yearly results. Hopefully you enjoy this video. If you do, make sure to leave a like, I'd appreciate it greatly. Also, if you want to share it with anyone, I'd greatly appreciate that. This is one of the most time-intense videos that I make, but I do it out of love. And I think it's a ton of fun and very, very enlightening. So if you enjoy that, I would appreciate it. But with that said, let's go ahead and get on into it. We're going to start early and work our way towards modern. So the earliest I have is 1934 Stanley Matthews. Now, I will note that I am going to add some earlier ones going into next year along with other players. So if you have any players that you feel like deserve to be on this list, let me know. Also, if you have any that you don't even think deserve to be on the list, maybe that's fair also. I mean, let me know there. No matter the case, we start with Stanley Matthews here, his breakdown. This is going to be a 12 to 13 month span. It's really 12 months and a few weeks. So if we compare back next year, I will sort of subtract a percentage based off of the extra time added. But just to note, this is a 12 to 13 month. That's why I put 13 month down here. Far left is going to show you the totals in different PSA ranges. The middle right is going to show you the PSA range changes over the last 13 months in terms of percentage. And then the far right is going to give more of a high level view in terms of the percent change and total changes for each particular card, along with the sum and average of that down here at the bottom. So with Stanley Matthews, we can see in terms of the most graded for him, he had 28 art outs graded, most of which were mid to low grade. Notably, the PSA 7 to 10 range only gained 2.9%, which is pretty low. Especially with already 70 being out there. Beyond that, we also have around 10 of the RJ and Hill, and then I guess if you combine the large and the small of the Carreras, that would be nearly 20. So I guess in the world of vintage soccer, this is a player that's plentiful, but vintage soccer is sort of its own niche, of course. So moving on to Di Stefano here, the only one that's really relatable in any way, since that's the only one that there were any submitted of, is the 53 Bruguera. Now, this isn't really a rookie. For the most part, I try to get rookies, but on some of these early guys, it is hard to have any sort of notable population increases since nothing's really going on. It does say that there was one of the revanches taken away, but I think there was also one added to the 3 through 6 range, so I think that balanced out. Nonetheless, the only thing that we're seeing here is 11 Bruguera Termos graded, some of which were in higher grade. I mean, a 12% jump is notable, but for this sticker, actually not as bad as it was. This was actually getting submitted quite a lot back in the day, but 11 for a year is about one a month, which isn't too crazy. Looking at Puskás here, we have a few different ones for him. Notably, the Naninas are sort of what stuck out to me, with 4 of those being graded and a decent amount in high grade. So really cool one there. I think we've seen one of those go to auction, but I don't think I've seen the other 2. The Heinerleys have also had 12 graded, which isn't too crazy. Again, that's about one a month, and most all of those are in PSA authentic through 2 range. Looking at Garincha here, nothing all of note besides one Americana, which is a pretty big one. There was only 2 of these graded. Now there's a third, and then we also have 10 Vecchis graded from the 1955, the blue over here on the far right. That's one of the more common, I guess, rookie Garinchas. If you want to go by true rookie, it's not true rookie, but it's the early gettable, also pretty good looking Garincha that you can get. 10 of those isn't a low amount, I would say, given that there's 70 to 80 of them. That still is a decent number, but nothing too crazy. With Pele here, I am going to be expanding this next year. However, I had the record on here, I'm pretty sure, along with the Gazzetta, and I just don't feel as good about those anymore, so I don't really want to track those going into the future. I think the other ones will be much more beneficial, and so I've lowered this to just 3. We have the Alifa, and then I have the 2 Titulares, which I already was tracking. And yeah, when we look here, so there's 15 Alifas over the last year, which is a decent number. I guess comparing to the Garincha we just saw for the Vecchi was around 10. This is at 15. The pop in total for the Alifa is right now about 107, at least for these pops. We are missing PSA 1s and 1.5s, notably by these ranges. Actually, a decent amount of these were in a PSA 5 through 7 range at a 25% increase there, so that's kind of notable. I do wonder if or what percent of that is crack and resubs, but hard to know. And then the Titulares, we have 3 of each of them, lower graded for the most part, but there were a couple of the mid 5 to 7 grades for the horizontal titulares. In regard to Eusebio, there is a 61 that had some pop increase, but it's this matchbook over here, so it doesn't really count. But in terms of other 61s that we have tracked, basically nothing. When we look at the 63s for the Calciatori, there was 6 and 8 of the blues, and then 2 and 1 of the yellows, depending on the back that you're looking at there. So yellow Velita back still looking quite low there at a total of 4, even though it did increase 1. Then we have George Best here, his 64 Barrett & Co. In total, a pop 16 change, with a large percent coming in the 8 through 10 range at a 50% change there. Scattered across the board in terms of mid and low grades, but 16 total, 22% increase. Sizable, I would say. When we go over to Beckenbauer here as well, a pretty good increase. Not many high grades in the 8 to 10, but in terms of 5 through 7, there were a decent amount, especially of the TTT, and in addition to that, also a decent amount of low grades as well. Total of 34 new rookies, 37% increase. Jared Muller, even more the same, I guess. Sort of makes sense because Jared wasn't graded in as much quantity before, but certainly is worth grading at this point in time. Again, not as many high grades except for the Sicker Verlag, the perforated one here in the middle, kind of easier to get in high grade from what I can tell. Numbers bear it out as well. And then when you look beyond that, again, decent amount in terms of mid-grade graded for the Bergman as well, along with the Sicker Verlag. No TTTs here to be found, though. When we go look at the Bobby Moore, we have a 45% increase, which is, again, pretty sizable, I would say, but not in terms of quantity, 7 total, so I guess that's a bit more forgiving in this situation. Johan Cruyff here, really the standout, I would say, is the Vanderhoot with a 40 increase in grading over the last year. Comparatively, the Sicker Verlag had 8, and the Palarex with 5, so the Palarex a little bit lower. A more notable percentage increase on the Sicker Verlag, since that is lower pop at the moment, but seems to be growing a little quicker than the Palarex, so we'll see how that plays out over time. Some high grades here as well. PSA 8 through 10 was graded for the Sicker Verlag, and also a decent amount graded in terms of the Vanderhoot, and even mid-grade here for the Sicker Verlag as well, and the Vanderhoot, while the Palarex is at 0% growth from the 5 through 10 range. Then we're looking at Platini's 1974 rookie. Here we have an increase in total of 10, which is a 11% increase, notably a decent increase in the PSA 8 through 10 range, along with sort of a mid 2 to 4. This isn't labeled correctly on the right, but that's okay. We'll just look past it. Next up, we have Maradona. So we have his 77 stuff, 78, and the 79 Calciatori as well. Some pretty low numbers here. When we look at the 77 disc, that had a net change of 2 in total. However, there were a couple removed in the 5 through 7 range since PSA seemingly found some fakes. The crack headshot, the 78 crack here at number 2, had a total increase of 16, which was decently sizable. Most of that in the 2 to 4 range. Notably here, we are not looking at 1s, 1.5s, authentics. The 78 cartoon had an increase of 4, while the Estampas also had an increase of 4. The Estampas all being in the lower graded area, and the Calciatori in total had an increase of 33, only 1 in a PSA 8 through 10, and most of that being lower grade as well. Then we have 2 of the 378 Franco Baresi items here, a total increase on the Addis of a +5, and the Calciatori of a +16. Notably, the Addis, it's a pretty high number, an increase of 71% in total, and the Calciatori as well at 28%, pretty sizable as well. For Ruud Gullit, we only had an increase of 2, one of those being in the 2 to 4 range, one of those being in the 5 to 7 range. Definitely not one I've seen much on PWCC/Fanatics. Lothar Matthäus here, we have an increase of 2, which is pretty sizable when there was only 2 on here last year, so this is a 100% increase. But if you're in the Vintage Discord, link down below, fun stuff there if you want to check it out. You see these around, I mean, from time to time, they are very rare at the same time, so, you knew there was more that were going to be graded, so I don't think an increase of 2 was shocking to anyone, but still very, very rare at a pop 4 in terms of the grades we're looking at. For Van Basten, there was an increase of 5 stickers this year, notably a lot of these sort of being higher grade, I guess one of them being in the 8 through 10 range, and then a couple being in the 5 through 7. No 2 through 4s, which is weird. Maldini, we have a +17 overall, 12 of those being the Calciatori, 5 of them being the Flash, and 0 of the Forza goals. Notably, the Calciatori Flash had a 200% increase in the 7 through 8 pop, but there were none of the 9s or 10s graded for Maldini's Calciatori, which is just interesting to note. Let's see if that happened for Baggio. So Baggio actually had a +2 in his 9 through 10s, 13 Calciatoris, 1 Flash, and 0 Forza goals, which is very interesting in terms of only 1 Flash being graded and also 0 Forza goals. There was sort of a run of Forza goals that got graded a couple years back, and the Flash has seemingly always gotten graded sort of here and there. You'd at least see it. Only 1 over the last year is sort of surprising to me. Total increase of 14 on these isn't all that crazy either, I would say. considering how many rookies he has. He also has another one that isn't being tracked here. I'm not sure if PSA grades that one or not, but either way, there are some questions around it, so I do like these three probably more. Then we have a Continent 85, where we have a total increase of 7 overall, a couple of those being 8 through 10, and also some trickling in lower versions. Then for Dennis Bergkamp here, we have his rookie sticker from 90-91 football, a total increase of 7. The titles here are a little off, but trust the left side where it says PSA Pop 8 through 10. We have a total of 10. There was only an increase of 1, and then in 5 through 7, there were a few, along with 2 through 4 as well. For Zidane here, we have a total increase of 15, which I thought was kind of sizable. Honestly, I haven't seen many Zidanes getting auctioned, so I didn't really think that many were getting graded. When we look here, most of these being in 2 to 4, which I guess is maybe why it's not sort of registering to me. Barely any 8 through 10s and barely any 5 through 7s. There are a few, but most of these being lower grade. Then for R9, got a few different choices here. When we look, his Copa do Mundo, pop change of 0, from what I can tell. Now we aren't tracking the lowest of low pop, so this is 3 through 5 as the lowest entry. Beyond that, we have a Football 78 and 91, both of those getting graded pretty well, 30 of the 78, so that's a decent number comparatively to what we saw with, say, Zidane or what we're going to see going forward. The Monday Deportivos had an increase of 22, and most notably the 9 and 10 increase being 200% here, because a couple of those did get graded. Also, even a lot of 6 through 8s, 35% of an increase on that, and only 12% of an increase on the 3 through 5, so that's really, really surprising. Notably for the Footballs, those were mostly in lower grades. No 9s or 10s graded at all for either one of them. And then the Nike promo, which I'm not sure if it should be on here, but I had it tracked and only one of those got graded, so I felt like throwing it up there. And then for Henry, we have his 96 foot along with his Stars of Europe, both the Spanish and the Russian version. When we look down at the pop changes, in total, the highest seemingly comes in on the Spanish Stars of Europe set, where you get 24 increase. The foot has a total increase of 12, and the Russian version with a total increase of 3. Notably, the Stars of Europe being graded in pretty high grade, 53% increase on the 8 through 10s of the Spanish and 50% increase on the 8 through 10s of the Russian. And that's not so much the case with the foot, only a couple 8 through 10s, and then you have some 5 through 7s, a pretty decent amount to be fair. But for me, this sort of cements even more so the foot, at least in my mind. I've noticed sometimes they actually can get pretty close in pricing, which to me, I don't really understand. I think that the foot has so much more history, lineage behind it, along with the appearance. I mean, it's just clearly the one for me. It might not be the most rare, but I don't think rarity should be the thing that rules the day here. After that, we have Xavi's 1998 items. Here, the Monday Chromo notably not really coming in that high of quantity. There's a nearly 200 graded in the grades that we're tracking. There was only 16 over the last year, only 2 of those being in a PSA 9 or 10 grade. The Este sticker did have a decent amount submitted, even in the, I guess, 9 through 10 grade, you had a +2, and then in the 7 through 8, you also had a +5. Panini Football number 3 card, pretty attractive in my opinion, but it did have a total increase of 10, which is pretty sizable, a 28% increase. That one was notably, and I guess still is notably, one of the more rare Xavi rookies, but not the rarest. This one on the far right, the 98 Spanish Liga, actually none graded in a PSA 5 through 10 grade as of the last 12 to 13 months, so pretty impressive there. Then we move on to Ronaldinho, which was one of the more bizarre. Now that I think about it, I'm actually going to go and check my work right now just to make absolute sure. Yeah, I mean, after checking again, same thing played out. So yeah, an increase of 0 over the last 12 to 13 months, which is pretty crazy to think about, at least from my perspective. I have seen some of these sell on PWCC. I mean, they're not frequent by any means, but I wouldn't have guessed that none of them got graded in the last year. At least in these grades, I did check gem rate, and there were like 10, 12, I mean, double digits graded over the last year, but none of them fell in this high of a grading range. So that feels fairly notable in terms of the med and high grade Ronaldinhos. For Zlatan, we had a total increase of 3. See, this is one where I actually might have predicted 0, because I don't even think I've seen the sell over the last year, but this one did have a total increase of 3. Most of this being in the 7 to 8, 5 to 6 range. None coming in a 9 to 10 range here. But yeah, definitely a sticker that still, I mean, despite the fakes, despite everything that sort of happened to stickers, not many of these around. In a 5 through 10 range here, we have a pop total of 33. Then we have Cristiano Ronaldo here, his 2002 Mega Cracks and his football sticker. The Mega Cracks comes in at an increase of 35 in total, while the football sticker comes in at an increase of 12. Keep in mind that the sticker is typically going to be harder to grade. It's sort of tricky because while you look at this and think, well, there's less of the sticker coming in, if people were actually like ripping out or cutting out and grading, stuck versions of this, there would be more of those. But, or at least so you would think. Nonetheless, the Mega Cracks here with an increase of 35 overall, which was a 15% increase, and in terms of the football stickers, that was a 6.7% increase for the mid and high grade items. The sticker did have a pretty decent increase here in the 9 to 10 range. It seems like a couple were graded there, and the Mega Cracks actually had one as well. Then we have Iniesta from 2002. We have a Monday Chromo along with a couple stickers here. So in total, the Monday Chromo did have an increase of 45 total, while the Panini sticker, the 392 in the middle, had an increase of 37, and then the update sticker had an increase of 4 in total. So seemingly making its mark there in terms of the rarest of the three. For the 392 sticker, this was one that sort of caught a lot of controversy and was just sort of the talk of the town there for a bit because it did have an increase in a PSA 10 pop of 460%. Over the last year, and more in particular, that was like a couple months of time, which was very jarring, and it's definitely shaken the pop reports here a good bit. But the 419 still remains very, very elusive for one reason or another, with only 4 of those being graded, so it's kind of interesting from that point of view. The Monday Chromos did have a couple of the PSA 10s graded, along with some 9s, but mostly 7/8s. And then we get to Messi, the big boy with so many rookie cards to count, but we'll do our best here. So I'm going to look along the far right line and sort of talk about some totals. So the Monday Chromo came in at a total of 51, the highest here being the white version of the Mega Cracks, this one right here with the facsimile auto at a total of 76. These seem to be, at least getting graded at a much higher clip. They do grade higher generally, and I would assume if you're a kid, you'd probably love the facsimile card more than the other ones, because as a kid, the facsimile auto holds some sort of value. As an adult, we think it's stupid. But, notably here, the lower amounts in terms of grades total were the Top League Monday Chromo, not people's favorite, sort of the dual panel item here. And then also the Este, with only 2 being graded. This one, a little artificial, though, because the Este hasn't been graded by PSA, at least up until the last couple months, for a couple years on end. PSA had struggled with some fakes. They had graded and had to pay out on a PSA 10 at some point or another, and they sort of just turned off the grading on the sticker, which is concerning because they left the grading on for so many other stickers, which creates this problematic area potentially. But nonetheless, 347 in total. Voice going a little bit there, but yeah, Messi a lot more than Cristiano Ronaldo. That's almost 10 times as many rookies. But I do sort of enjoy this style of rookie more. Ronaldo having 2 is cool and all, and having it be rare is interesting from that perspective, but I do like being able to collect many different rookies, maybe putting together a team set, whatever it is you want to do. There's enough options, 347 in total, 12% overall, which isn't crazy though. I will say 347 sounds big, but again, like how many numbered cards? If you numbered these, like every year, 350 Messi rookies sort of get brought to PSA and brought to the market. It's probably even less than that because not all these people are selling them. Whatever. Say it's like 200 to 300. People gobble up Messi serial numbered cards like there's no tomorrow. There's like 5,000 to 10,000 those bought up and hoarded every year. Makes the rookie numbers not seem all that crazy. Obviously 347 compared to what we've looked through is pretty high, but I think Messi can handle it. And then next up, a couple sort of pre-modern guys. I am definitely open to throwing more in here, so if you have any ideas, let me know. But we have a Sergio Ramos here. His most notable increase, I guess, is in terms of the Top League of foil. There were a couple PSA 8, and there haven't been any of his I grades graded for those, which has been really weird, since there are a decent amount of Messis. And then beyond that, his Mega Cracks did have an increase of 4 in total, most of that being in the PSA 9 range. Basically, and his sticker actually had none graded in the 8 through 10 range over the last year. And then we end with Lewandowski here. I was sort of surprised, only 7 in total for his 13-month change, 5%, which is nothing. These were graded very heavily when he was sort of going on the Ballon d'Or run, breaking records, all that stuff. So not as many coming in anymore, but that is a pretty low amount. There was a PSA 10 of his headshot, so I guess that's somewhat notable. But other than that, nothing too crazy, mostly PSA 8s graded. But that's going to be it for this year in review. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Would love to hear your thoughts down below. What impressed you, what didn't. Definitely a lot of data to take in, and hopefully it helps you out a bit. So if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.